I'm Steve Swatt with the Sacramento Report. In the next few minutes, we're going to talk about key provisions in Governor Brown's proposed budget and do a little analysis. Our guest is Mac Taylor, who is the legislative analyst. Thank you very much for being with us.
My pleasure, Steve.
So the governor has called his budget plan, which is really the blueprint for growth for the next year, solid and enduring. Is it solid and enduring in your opinion?
Well, what we've said is yes, we think that the budget situation is roughly in balance. That is, we finally sort of brought those expenditure and revenue lines together. And while there are going to be a handful of actions that will be needed to make sure that it is actually in balance, we've still urged the legislature to show fiscal constraint because there are a lot of daunting problems that still remain.
And some of those problems include court cases that could wipe out several $100 million or more.
The economy.
The economy.
We have a very volatile revenue structure. You've got those tax increases that were approved by Proposition 30 that are relatively short term. Mm-hmm. Actions at the federal level on sequestration, on the fiscal cliff. Right. So you have a variety of things that it could very easily turn south on us.
I remember when I was a Capitol reporter, Governor Deukmejian would always try to insist on a reserve for economic uncertainties, a rainy day fund of 3% of the budget. Well, the budget is close to $100 billion, and the rainy day fund in Governor Brown's proposed budget is $1 billion. That's 1%. We could lose that in a hiccup.
Oh, yes. And I think we're in a situation now, as the state's revenue structure has gotten more and more volatile, we should probably have a reserve of 7, 8, 9% in order to cushion the blow of an economic downturn. So I think we have a long ways to go to build up that reserve. That's probably the single most important thing we could do to protect against the volatile revenue structure that we have.
So you're talking about $8 billion reserve just in case.
Yes. Now, we don't have to do that all at once, obviously, right. But over time, as we've recovered economically, during the better times, that's when you need to build up that reserve.
But you know, if you go back in history, governors build up a surplus and then critics say it's an obscene surplus, you have to give it back to the people. Gray Davis had that problem, amongst others. George Deukmejian had a tax refund, rebate for everybody. So the pressure in the legislature is, once you get a certain amount of money, is to spend it on something.
I mean, that is true, Steve, but I think things have changed. You know, we did pass Proposition 58 in 2004, which set up a reserve of 5% or $8 billion. So I think that people are becoming more familiar with the need for having a higher reserve. So I hope that's changed over time.
Let me ask another question about tax reform. California relies heavily on the income tax, and critics have said that's obviously it's very volatile, it goes up and down with the stock market and things like that. Would you like to see us change our system of taxation? It's been talked about for years and nothing's ever happened.
I think it's a really tough issue because one of the things, and I just want to note that about 2/3 of our general fund revenue is from the personal income tax. So we're very dependent on it. One of the key ways that you reduce the volatility is by reducing your tax rates on capital gains or higher income people. Well, we've just gone the opposite direction with the passage of Proposition 30. So I think that would be a very difficult thing to do. The other issue that they talk about is don't make your tax structure so dependent on personal income taxes. Right. And they've talked about broadening the sales tax base to include taxation on services. I think those are important things to consider. But I think our first defense against volatility is a very good reserve.
All right. Mac Taylor, legislative analyst, thank you very much for coming by and picking apart little portions of the governor's budget. We'll have to have you back, and especially as we get after the revision of the budget in May.
I'd enjoy that. Thanks, Steve.
And thanks to our viewers for watching Local Edition on Time Warner Cable. Thank you very much. And also a reminder that you can see this and other interviews on My Government On Demand, also on YouTube.